At the age of 53, I was asked to resign a position that I was very proud to have, and I'd only held for 8 months. And we're going to talk about that today. It wasn't easy. It was very difficult, but it brought me to the best place that I've ever been in my life. And through some of the most difficult things, we can get to the portion of our lives that is the most rewarding. And here on this channel, we talk about the last quarter. We're making an assumption that if you live to be the age of 82, which is the average age right now, according to the internet, in America, the United States, then the last quarter mathematically is at 61.5 years of age. And when I realized that, and I realized where I was in my age range, I'm just getting ready to jump into that. And I know I've done a lot of things to prepare for that portion of my life, but I haven't done the majority. I haven't done a lot. I haven't done a lot of thinking around that. And I thought, well, let's do that together. So today we're going to talk about a really uncomfortable thing that happened to me. It changed my career dramatically. I was asked to be an executive director of a nonprofit organization in media. And I had worked for the organization before and really believed in the mission and loved the work. And when I was hired to run the organization, I was super proud. And I ignored every single red flag imaginable. I ignored that many people had tried and failed. Hubris, I thought. But I hadn't tried. I wasn't going to fail because I knew what they needed. And so I jumped in with both feet. I changed up my life. I moved my husband and I changed everything there was about our life at that time. And he was game for it. A generous, amazing human being that I married to said, "Oh, honey, I'm so proud of you. Let's go do this thing." And there was a lot of toxicity in the organization, both just plain damaged emotionally human beings and other things. And that'll happen. I did not pay attention. I thought, I can muddle through this. I can get through this. I can go through those doors. And there's just too much stacked up against me. And frankly, I did not have the skills needed to solve all of the problems in that organization. I was not what they needed. I was able to do a lot for them. I was also pushed back in areas they weren't ready to heal in. They weren't ready to make changes in. And that's an honest evaluation and fair enough. Whether that organization will ever have the ability to heal some of the things that have happened there, we could have fun and have a glass of wine and talk about that. But I was asked to leave that role. And after chatting with friends and a friend that is a lawyer and friends that were on the board, I said, "Oh, I am leaving. I am definitely leaving." No, that sounds like, yes, I am leaving. I am strong. It is fine. It was not fine. It was a huge loss. It was a huge loss to my ego, to my hubris, to my self-worth, to my understanding of who I was and who I wasn't. And that was the grief part, right? You have to let go and grieve the loss, not necessarily of a job, a job, but of an avocation, something I had been a part of for a very long time. and the loss to who I've contemplated myself and who I thought I was and who I thought I was capable of helping. And that took a lot. First, of course, I laid on the bed in my bathrobe and looked at the cracks in the ceiling. We were remodeling a house. We had sold our dream house to do this. And I regretted that. And we were remodeling a different house. And it was a lovely house. We remodel houses. It's something I do. It's not part of the nonprofit work that I work with. It's an investment thing for me. But we had sold our dream house and moved from a lake community that was lovely and wonderful. And so I had upended our lives for a bad decision. My husband was fine with that. He was of positivity and loving and generous and supportive, and he had just retired. So he was going through changes in his life, but he was not career upended. I was upended. I thought, well, I'll just go get another job. But you can't really explain the barriers for women in leadership roles at a certain age. I was 54 years old to just recover that. Let's just say those that do recover from something, a setback like that within their career at the age and leadership roles at 54 as a female are few. And I have nothing but respect for those that will say, I did that. I recovered. Good on you. I did not recover in that traditional way of getting another leadership role. What I did do after laying on the bed a few days, after moping in self-pity, what I did do was I wrote a note to every single board member. Every single one, even the ones, especially the one that wanted me not to be their leader, not to be their employee. Even the one that never supported me at any given time did I give him any positive support. Even the one that had lied, literally lied, to other board members about me. I wrote him a thank you note. And why did I write thank you notes to all the board members? This helped me more than anything. I'm not suggesting you do this. If somebody fires you, do not, if you do not want to, write them a thank you note. The reason I wrote them a thank you note is I am a follower of a certain type of fundraising, a gratitude fundraising, where the more you thank the donors, statistically, I mean, this is proven out with science, the more they will respond and be positive back to you. They'll respond by donating more hours of volunteerism. They'll donate more time and treasure. They will up their dollar amounts considerably. They will donate faster, more frequently, and with larger amounts, statistically. Not every single person, but you will gain more by being grateful to others. So here I was, and I thought I was at my lowest of my low, and I wanted to feel better. I wanted to feel better. And I thought, if I can make them feel better, then maybe I will feel better. So I wrote a thank you note to every single one, personal, thanking them for their concern over this organization, their time, their treasure, their love of the organization and what it does, and the people it serves. Because even if I believe, suppose you make a bad decision, I can still thank you for caring so much that you went to the time to be involved. And no matter what the outcome from your decision is, you still cared. You cared deeply, and you thought about, or you reacted with concern. And you may have not had the correct information. Someone was feeding you full of hogwash. That's okay. In the end, you cared enough to evaluate from the information that you had and make the best decision you could at the time. And in this case, all of these people are volunteers. They are volunteers for an organization serving other human beings. So I wrote thank you notes. The last one I wrote, and the hardest one, was to the person that had caused the mischief. But I know that person does care about the organization. Not in the way that I did, because otherwise they would have come to other decisions. They come from a completely different place. And their place of fear and their place of power, structure within the organization and with the employees led them to feel threatened by positivity. I meant no threat, but just know that change is always hard. Some people equate change with grief. Grief is all change. All grief is formed by change. And if you've known the majority of your life that change brings grief, then you will not think change within an organization or something you're doing is going to be positive. A change is going to be awful, because that's the changes in your life have been awful when change happens. And so I thanked this person for their continued time, involvement, and caring around the organization. We did not agree on how that organization needed to be successful, but I could thank them. And then, remarkably, I was right on, I'm not always right, but I was right that writing the thank you notes made me feel a lot better. It framed their decision differently, not as a rejection of me, but a rejection of the change I was wanting to bring. And that is hard. And I know a lot of them didn't have all the facts. And that made me feel better too, because they weren't rejecting me on my honest work. They were rejecting me on feedback that was inappropriate. And you can rail at the heavens on that. But in the end, it truly wasn't a reflection of my work. My work was good and solid. So that being the case, I decided, instead of running headlong into brick walls of trying to be employed when I was not of the age that women in leadership are employed in the traditional sense very easily. And there is a lot of ageism out there. There is an extraordinarily high bar on looks and whether you're a man or not. So there's sexism and there's ageism, and I wasn't going to play that game. I decided to go into coaching and consulting in my field. And I have not regretted it. It has treated me very well. I was able to connect and network with people that I had communicated with before and do a couple of speaking engagements, and immediately was hired. It's remarkable. maybe not everyone has that experience, but I have had that experience. So my life changed dramatically because I was let go. I was asked to resign from a job when it was my 54th year. I wasn't quite 54 yet. And it was one of the hardest times of my life. It also created one of the best times of my life. And as I am getting ready to jump that line of 61.5 and be in the last quarter of my life, that time of my life a few years ago prepared me for the fourth quarter like no other event in my life. If you can be grateful for one of the most traumatic career-ending events of your life, and that on the other side, you feel it did the most good to prepare you for the rest of your life, then that's not the worst thing that could have ever happened to you. So that's how I ended up. And by the way, the only time in my life I have ever been let go, ever. Not including the times that my brother, who owned a restaurant, used to fire his siblings on the regular. Not that. He always asked us to come back. But in my real life, I had never, ever been rejected on my work. And realizing that I really hadn't been rejected on my work. I had been rejected on shared outcomes. That the outcomes that I was wanting for an organization were not outcomes, even though they verbalized they wanted them, they weren't ready for it yet. And that wasn't a rejection of my work. So that's the story of my losing my job in my 50s and how it was one of the best things that really, in the end, ever happened to me.